Welcome to another episode of Real Estate Investing Explained. Here's today's question. I get asked a lot about partnerships, from people listening to the show, whether they should invest in real estate with a partner. I personally have a business partner that I invest in a lot of my real estate deals with. It's just something that I enjoy. So what happens when partners purchase a property together and one of the two partners does not want to do a 1031 exchange? Assuming that they own 50-50, just to kind of keep it simple, can one partner force the other partner to do a 1031 exchange legally?
They could not force them legally. Usually, it depends on what your partnership agreement provides. So many partnerships you want to set up so that you have a tiebreaker. But essentially, this is a common issue, is the partnership issue where the parties want to separate. And as I mentioned, this is kind of similar to the syndicated issue. You have to have the same taxpayer on both sides of the exchange. So if a partnership owns the relinquished property, the partnership has to buy the replacement property. So this is some of the restructuring I talked about, which is a little bit controversial or a little bit, subject to audit risk. You would have to essentially get out of the partnerships if you wanted to separate. And you would do that hopefully before you actually went to contract for the property that you were selling. You would have the partnership deed the property out to the two partners as tenants in common. And then as tenants in common, when they sell the property, they can go their separate ways. You probably don't want to wait and do this on the eve of closing. You'd rather do it as much in advance as you possibly could.
Or alternatively, in those rare cases, one partner could buy out the other partner as well.
In that case, when you mention the partnership, does it have to be a legal entity? So do you have to have a legal, say, LLC or partnership that owns that property? Or what if it's owned in two people's names individually? Is that still considered a partnership?
Not necessarily. So you can own property in two people's names, and that would be considered tenant in common ownership, typically. Okay, so two party, and in that case, you don't have to do restructuring. That's provided you're not filing like partnership tax return. Typically, you would just show the property on each of your individual returns, right? 50-50. That's fine. That's what we're actually trying to get to when we do what I call the drop and swap, is that state. So if you're set up as a tenant in common, then you're good to go. You can go your separate ways, no problem.
So it sounds like if you don't have it in a legal entity, you're in a better situation than if you have it owned in an LLC.
Yeah, what I would recommend, you probably still want to have a legal entity for, protection purposes. So you're protected against lawsuits, et cetera, et cetera. But in that case, if you wanted to have a partner or a co-venturer, we'll call them, because partner denotes, a legal relationship, you would each set up your own limited liability company. So you could have two limited liability companies own the same property, 50-50. And then you can still go your own separate way.
That's all for this episode of Real Estate Investing Explained. Be sure to follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, or subscribe to our YouTube channel to get even more free content.